Now we are going to visualize the pathologies of the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragm, we need to know that normally when you are working with the diaphragm, the left diaphragm has to be lower than the right diaphragm. And this is because the cardiac silhouette pushes the left diaphragm lower. Is it clear? So the left diaphragm has to be lower than the right diaphragm normally. Is it clear? In the case where the right becomes lower than the left, it's a case of a Cartagena syndrome, and that one is going to be associated with a dextrocardia. Is it clear? So when you have those cases, those are the different things. So normally the distance separating the left and the right should be 2 centimeters at least. Is it clear? So those are the different things that you have to understand. So particularly that for the diaphragm is going to be a Cartagena syndrome, or if you have a pleural effusion that's going to be associated, may change the length at which you see the diaphragm. Is it clear? Now you need to know that what there is another element that I've forgotten to tell you on the positioning of the patient having the X-ray. Positioning of the X-ray that is being done. We have something down here which is the stomach. Is it clear? So we have the stomach down here. You need to know that there is a stomach down here. Is it clear? And the stomach is going to produce its gastric air bubble. Is it clear? If you see a dark gastric air bubble, it is very likely that the patient was in a erect position when taking the X-ray. So when you see a dark gastric air bubble, it means that the patient was in erect position when taking the X-ray. When you see a large dark gastric air bubble, the patient was in erect position when taking the X-ray. But if you don't see any air bubble, if you see a small air bubble, it means that you may be seated when taking the chest X-ray. And if you see no gastric air bubble, it means that the patient is lying flat. Is it clear? Or the patient has not eaten, or the patient has eaten too much. Is it clear? So those are the different things which can tell you about the position of the patient. When you see a large gastric air bubble, the patient is standing. A smaller gastric air bubble, the patient is sitting. And when the patient is lying down, you have no gastric air bubble. So those are the different things that you have to know in order for the position. Now the next thing we have to know is the pleural cavity pathologies. For the pleural cavity pathologies, you need to know that there are different elements in pleural cavity pathologies. For pleural cavity pathologies, the first point that you have to know is that you are going to have pleural effusion. You have a syndrome for pleural effusion on the X-ray. So when you have pleural effusion, meaning that there's only liquid, you are going to have blunting of the prosophrenic angle, meaning that you are not going to see this sharp prosophrenic angle. You are going to see a whitish or opacity at the level of prosophrenic angle. That's the blunting of the prosophrenic angle. That's the first sign. The first sign is blunting of prosophrenic angle. So meaning that you don't see the prosophrenic angle again. The second sign of pleural effusion is that you are going to see also a meniscus sign. Is it clear? So you have the meniscus sign, meaning that you see this. When normally you put water in a cup or in a tube, you see if you put water in a tube, you are going to see small this like this. This is telling you that there is water or there is fluid inside the pleural cavity. Every time you see just a meniscus sign, when you put water in a tube, let's say that you have a tube like this, you're going to see a meniscus sign. Every time you see this meniscus sign, it means that there is just fluid. It means that there is only a pleural effusion syndrome. That's a meniscus sign. Meniscus sign. Is it clear? Now, the next thing that you have to visualize also, you have the disappearance of the cardiac silhouette. So, if it is a very massive effusion, you can see the whitish structure here. You have whitish around here. And you have the disappearance of the cardiac silhouette. When that cardiac silhouette disappears, it is called the silhouette sign. Silhouette sign. Is it clear? You have the silhouette, you have what is called the silhouette sign. Is it clear? Now, the next thing after the silhouette sign, when that cardiac silhouette have disappeared, you have the next point that I want to tell you very specifically about the meniscus sign. Now, I've said initially that when there is only fluid inside the pleural cavity, just like when you put water in the pleural cavity, you are going to have this. Is it clear? That's the meniscus sign. But provided that you don't have just water, but there is water and there is air, you are going to have an air fluid level. Is it clear? And air fluid level, meaning that on the chest is going to, let's say that you are going to have the opacity here, length of prosophonic angle, you're going to have air fluid level shown as such. This zone here is going to be opaque, while this zone here is going to be lucent. Is it clear? Air fluid level, you have a horizontal line separating a zone of opacity and a zone of lucency. Is it clear? That's called the air fluid level. Are you understanding? Now, after the air fluid level, you have the other elements that you have to understand. So air fluid level means tells you that there is both air and there is fluid, and that one is occurring in the case of a hydropneumothorax. It means that there is air and there is fluid inside the chest. Is it clear? Or it can be also a hemopneumothorax, particularly if it is blood and there is air. Is it clear? It's a hemopneumothorax. Hydropneumothorax, there is water and there is air in the chest. Is it clear? Those are the different elements. Now the next sign are the signs of pneumothorax on the X-ray. What are the signs of pneumothorax on the X-ray? So the signs of pneumothorax on the chest X-ray, we need to point out the different aspects. When you have pneumothorax on chest X-ray, it's going to be presented how? The first point is that you are going to see hyperlucency. When you see hyperlucency of the chest of one lung field, meaning that one lung field is more darker than the other. That's hyperlucency. The second point, you see a line called ligne de demoiselle. Is it clear? The demoiselle line. When you see the demoiselle line, it also usually associated with that cases. Is it clear? So we have what is called total pneumothorax and partial pneumothorax, which can also be visualized on the X-ray. Total pneumothorax is when you have a complete circumscription of the lungs. It means that this is your chest X-ray. You see this complete demarcation of the lungs from the thoracic wall. When you have a line completely demarcating the lungs from the thoracic wall like this, is it clear? That is called the demoiselle line, and it shows this one where it's completely, it's a complete pneumothorax. Is it clear? But now if it's just on partial area that you see that demarcation, that's a partial pneumothorax on X-ray. Is it clear? The third one after the demoiselle line, so you have seen the hyperlucency, you have seen the demoiselle line. The third element after that, we have also atelectasis. Is it clear? Atelectasis. So atelectasis, you can see an opacity here. Is it clear? You visualize an opacity located here in the lung field. Is it clear? Meaning that that lung field has collapsed. If you see a hyper opacity of one lung field, because you have to know the three major lung fields. Is it clear? So if you have to see a hyper opacity of one lung field, it means that that lung has collapsed. In the case of an atelectasis, all that can occur in pneumothorax. And the additional element is that pneumothorax is air, so it's going to push the cardiac silhouette. So you're going to have a push of the mediastinum away from the affected side, and you have also the push of the trachea away from the affected side. Though there is atelectasis, atelectasis normally pulls, but since there is pneumothorax, that pneumothorax is going to push the atelectasis away. Is it clear? So those are the different elements that you have to know on the X-ray. So the last point that you have to know on X-ray, but I'm not going to speak it on it alone, is when you have to speak about other structures, the other structures of the X-ray. And the other structures are particularly the musculoskeletal region. And in that musculoskeletal region, you need to know that what in the musculoskeletal region, you have to speak about the ribs. So you have to look the ribs very cautiously to find if there's any rib fracture. Is it clear? You look at the ribs very cautiously to find if there is any rib fracture. Now the next thing, you find the joints, particularly the glenohumeral joint. You look the scapular bone, you find at the joint to find if there is any joint dislocation. Those are very important aspects of the X-ray. After visualizing the soft tissue, you have to visualize the hard tissues. Is it clear? So those are the different elements that you have to additionally do when you are looking at the X-ray. And on the X-ray also, you have to look also underneath the right hemidiaphragm to know if there is a crescent air shape. Is it clear? When you look at underneath the right hemidiaphragm to see if there is a crescent air shape, Is it clear? That one underneath the right mid diaphragm, you see there's a crescent edge. That crescent edge is going to tell you when that there is a perforation. Is it clear? It tells you that there is perforation of the bowels. Is it clear? If you see a crescent edge shape underneath the diaphragm, that's a crescent lucency underneath the left mid diaphragm. Is it clear? So those are the different elements that you need to understand on chest X-ray. So from here we say thanks for your kind attention, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for our channel. Thank you.